Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us for EPM Live's latest installment in our webinar series. My name is Jim Patterson. Today's topic will be accelerating SharePoint value with total work management. Just a couple things before we get started. This is a webinar that's going to be in listen-only mode. The chat panel within the GoToWebinar, you can actually log questions there. We have someone monitoring that can answer any questions that you do have along the way. Also, we will be providing all people who signed up for this with a recorded version of this webinar afterwards, probably this afternoon, and so you can listen to it again at your leisure, and also for those folks that last minute couldn't attend. Also, we're going to be providing you with information regarding the PDU credits that you get from this webinar, so that should all be taken care of later on today. Okay, enough with the housekeeping. Today's topics as we go through this is we're going to define what value from SharePoint is and how we can actually extend what comes out of the box. We're also going to talk about work management as a foundation within SharePoint and a building block to acceptance and usage within the organization. We're also going to talk specifically about how we can accelerate SharePoint value specifically with EPM Live and its solutions and capabilities. And then we're going to go through work management usage scenarios through showing you some things in the software itself. We'll wrap up with an overall benefits summary and some additional information that might be helpful for you at the end. So let's start talking about defining value from SharePoint. Today, SharePoint has grown like wildfire, probably the most successful Microsoft product and the fastest growing and adopted tool that it had ever launched. Out of the box, you get a lot of good capabilities for document management, whether it be check-in and check-out, version control, workflow and process, and general collaboration that folks may want to do on different items within a solution. Probably one of the most common things we see out there in the marketplace is that SharePoint is very much underutilized in those areas. Has a lot of broad set of capabilities, and even with the out-of-the-box capabilities, folks only tend to scratch the surface and potentially only use it as a web-based file share, more or less. The idea there is that you make the investment, the cost in that, and the real question is, are you getting the value out of it that you can, or are you leaving a lot of value on the table from the capabilities that are on there? Now, as the use of SharePoint matures and people have made that commitment and that investment, the real question is, how can we extend that to get more value out of it for the organization? Obviously, that can take some time, some development, some configuration, and the associated costs that go with that. But with that should come additional value. And that comes in the forms generally of applications that might be built within the SharePoint platform to do specific things that are using the core capabilities of SharePoint, but using them in specific ways to get specific feature functions and value out of the SharePoint platform. Also, through APIs and web services and other things, integrating to other line of business data or your ERP and financial systems so that you can actually leverage that in the collaborative environment, or things that add additional value and make it really an enterprise deployment of SharePoint for the customer. Now, that being said, how do you add that additional value of applications and integration? It's the classic buy or build type of scenario. Is it best to buy commercial off-the-shelf applications or components that would extend SharePoint, or maybe build them internally, either yourselves with your developers or maybe with consultants or contractors who actually have the SharePoint skill sets to do that for you? Those are questions that need to be asked and how you get there. Obviously, you develop things yourself. The questions of, is the cost of developing those things from womb to tomb? It's the maintenance and the upgrade path and sustaining that application over different versions, iterations, and even service packs of SharePoint that may come out over time. So there are considerations on how to get there, but the idea is as you mature, you can go from the base file share concept with document management to leveraging those documents better and then doing general collaboration in a very strong platform of SharePoint out of the box. And then extending that to provide targeted capabilities with applications and integrating with data so they can be leveraged and used within this collaborative platform. Now, To increase value with additional capabilities, if we take those two nodes, EPM Live's value proposition here is on the buy side. We've invested the time and effort in really making SharePoint into a full project portfolio and work management application. That being said means the development does not have to be done. The prior slide where those nodes were farther to the right with additional costs means you don't have to invest in custom development and sustain and support it and maintain it yourself. The idea is that we can provide the capabilities that we're talking about here today, both on the application and the integration side of things, and provide it for you at a commercial off-the-shelf price, meaning you can get to it quicker, at less cost, and really achieve the same value, but do it quicker and with less investment. Those are the things that we're doing today and bringing SharePoint into a true work management environment. There's a lot of good things it does out of the box, but for example, for managing projects and schedules and other things, what also the work management does is it actually drives business process, or it actually is where the work is being performed for a company or organization, so that it's no longer just a file upload or elective process where you may put some documents up and you may not. If the business of the business is being done, if the work is being performed and the business process is being executed within a SharePoint environment, then the adoption rate and the consistency of people's use of SharePoint raises substantially, meaning adoption and success and value from the investment in that platform does increase. So let's look at work management as the foundation of what we're talking about here today. The concept here really is that work is everywhere in an organization. It's not all just tasks and project plans. It's not just service requests. If you look at all the mix, people are managing projects. They're managing them in different methodologies, some in more of a waterfall approach, some in more of an agile scrum type of iterative approach. And then there's unplanned work that comes in, like maintenance items or incidents and operational things that we really don't plan on, but really impact our resource capacities, our loading, and our ability to deliver on all types of work as we go on through. The concept here is that we want to provide a capability within the SharePoint platform that allows us to manage all types of work, not just have applications that are dedicated solely for waterfall projects, or a separate application or a silo that's dedicated towards agile projects, and a separate entity or database that's available for things like service requests and operational work. The idea is if we can pull this all together into a common platform, there's some great value and cost savings potentially for an organization. So if you look at work management as the foundation, there's several components in here. Obviously, work management has a process. You define it, you plan it, you prioritize it, you execute and track on it. There's a number of different dimensions of that. There's the resource management side of things that really helps us determine, what our capacities are. Can we deliver? Who's actually going to do the work? From a functional manager's perspective, what are the loads and things that are expected of our people, and what work efforts are we supporting? There's the general project management capability to support the project managers that are executing these very directed efforts and helping them get succeed on both the task management and all the other actionable and deliverable things that have to happen in those projects. From the portfolio management perspective, we want at a minimum portfolio visibility so that we can see all of the work elements that are going on and all the initiatives and projects that are on our plate, so we can track their status and their progress all the way on through to successful completion. And then just general organizational performance, us executing on all of these different work types, being able to automate the processes and streamline the processes in a way that help us be more effective and deliver things more effectively across the organization. SharePoint has the base capabilities to do these kinds of things, but the tools and the specific application of those core capabilities is really what's missing, and things that have to be either developed or added to the SharePoint platform in order to make it deliver this promise. So if you think about being able to manage all work together, think of all work intake. Everything initiates somewhere. All the demand for different types of work can potentially come through a common funnel. Your projects, your operational incidents or maintenance requests, change orders, application requests, and other things like that can all come through a common funnel. And the folks from the business that are actually generating these requests may not know how to characterize or categorize these things properly as they come in. So at some point, these different work items or work types can come in and actually go through their own unique methodology, work stream, approval, and life cycle process, but all within the same system. What we propose is that folks, as these requests and demand items come in, is that they can go through their well-defined and appropriate workflows and life cycle process all within the same system, meaning all the approvals and visibility and the governance across these can be done within a singular tool. The actual assignment of resources to work items that spawn off of these things can all be in one tool, instead of having people to look at and monitor 2, 3, 4 different applications in order to manage this type of work. And then also to be getting a platform where you have all your common reporting, your analytics, your dashboards, your reports, and other metrics can all be coming out of a common database, and really adding some simplicity to that to make sure that this becomes a more natural output of the process. So how do we accelerate SharePoint value with EPM Live? All these different work types that we talked about, EPM Live has developed templated, pre-built work features that can be readily deployed instantly. Yet even though they're pre-built and pre-configured, they can be actually tailored for the specific needs and metadata needs of specific clients. Now, all these different work types and work elements can be bundled into our pre-built solution apps that basically provide you different flavors of project, portfolio, and overall work management. I mean, the concepts of project management and portfolio management and work management are fairly, have some common threads, but depending on the industry you're in, the vertical market that you may be in, the type of department or business unit you perform in within a specific organization, your flavor of what project management and work management may deviate from others in your organization. So we have the ability within our mix to actually deploy for different audiences within our solution pre-built apps that actually address the needs of different folks. Here we've got 4 as an example: traditional project portfolio management, new product development, application portfolio management, and overall IT planning and control. We'll talk a little bit more about how these applications get deployed, but the idea is that you can have different audiences within the same organization using an application from EPM Live that addresses the needs of their specific discipline and subject matter expertise. What EPM Live does is, even though that these applications are different variations of project portfolio and work management, the visibility, being able to look at all portfolios and all elements within portfolio management, being able to have access to all schedules in a collaborative, online, web-based environment, and be able to do planning, scheduling, and tracking. The resource management implications, from top-down capacity planning all the way through rolling up detailed work assignments that come from specific work items to see really how we're loaded up and who's doing what at any given point in time. Cost and financial management, time reporting if that's something that's important to you. And as I said, having a common solution with a common repository makes the dashboarding and reporting and analytics become a much more streamlined and natural output of the process. Also a consideration is integration. There may be tools already entrenched in your organization that aren't going anywhere. They can be the systems of record for more operational work, or where people are doing Agile or software development. We have a lot of pre-built integrations that are available that actually will bring that data and workload into EPM Live so that you can visualize and analyze that in conjunction with any of the workload that EPM Live owns or is the system of record of. Meaning you can get a total view of portfolio, total view of work guidance, total view of the resource implications of those types of things. And with our pre-built connector, it makes it easy for us to do integrations with any other type of system that might be out there: financial systems, time reporting systems, other work management systems, etc. So in our focus today of really extending or accelerating SharePoint via total work management, the task and work management is the thing we're going to focus on today, even though EPM Live provides a real robust feature set in all these different areas and beyond. If we look at schedule management, for example, SharePoint out of the box provides you some great tools for building lists of any kind, and some of those may be simple work items. Some of the tools and the grids that we provide allow people, even with simple to-do lists, to manage these things in a much more streamlined and effective way. So simple planning for simple things that don't have really complex project management or structural needs can be easily entered within this. In addition, all within the same portfolio, all within the same solution, EPM Live also adds to SharePoint a fully web-based planner that is operated within SharePoint. So for doing waterfall projects, the types of things that you do for structuring building work breakdown structures and hierarchical plans and putting dates, durations, and work estimates and assigning resources and putting all your dependencies on and baselining plans, etc., we provide a tool and add to SharePoint the ability to do this right in SharePoint without having to have an additional, say, scheduling client available to you. So the idea here is that this is a method that can be done to get work plans in and is a true value add to what SharePoint really provides out of the box. Also, we have a complete bi-directional integration with Microsoft Project, either professional or standard. And the idea here is that if you're a proficient Microsoft Project user and you're comfortable with it and your templates and your plans are all being built in here, we actually provide you the ability to publish all of the details from any of the Microsoft Project planning you're doing out to SharePoint and EPM Live so that a user can see the schedules in total out in SharePoint in their hierarchies and their structure. And also, people that are assigned to specific elements of work can actually get their assignments in EPM Live out in SharePoint at any given point in time and actually provide updates and status out in SharePoint and have that information flow back to the project manager for review and acceptance into Microsoft Project. It's a very slick way to have Microsoft Project be the planning tool, yet have the collaborative nature of SharePoint extend and really streamline the process and give you a really closed-loop process out of the box. The key is whatever tool you use to get tasks or schedules into the system, the net result is the same, so that you can view all schedules, interact and update all tasks, and see all your milestones online. All those types of things are available to you from a variety of different ways. So you really have the power of choice on the planning tools that you'd like to use. We also add to the SharePoint mix the idea of doing more iterative methodologies like Agile, Scrum. The idea is that you can use our Agile Planner, for example, to define iterations or sprints, to be able to monitor and manage backlog, define those user stories, defects, features, etc., be able to size them either from an effort points perspective or a just an hours or workload perspective, and be able to slot those into time-boxed iterations as is done within this methodology. The key is any work item here that you end up getting assigned to is just like any other task in the system. It'll actually give you workload. It'll actually show up in your My Work. It will actually be intermingled with all the other things you've been assigned. You won't have to have a separate tool or a separate environment or database for the Agile type of work that's going on. And it does provide integration capabilities with other SDLC tools, like Team Foundation Server from Microsoft, for example, where workload items can be done and shared with our Agile tool as well. So the key is all within the same tool, all within the same portfolio, we can manage waterfall projects, simple task lists, and now Agile capabilities in a more iterative-based methodology. Also, unplanned work that comes in, not structured things like we plan in Agile or in waterfall methodologies, things like incidents and service requests and maintenance items that come in. The idea is that we provide an intake or mechanism to be able to grab those, assign them, categorize them, prioritize them, and actually have those be part of the total workload. In organizations like in IT, for example, where folks maybe work some on projects and some on more operational work, their total workload can be managed and quantified and visualized and executed all within EPM Live in SharePoint. So we talked earlier about the concept of, work is everywhere and all work types are all around. But what does that mean to the user if they use something like EPM Live in SharePoint? Well, here you can look at, no matter how many different work types are assigned to you within this SharePoint/EPM Live environment, a user can go to their My Work page and see all of the things that they've been assigned in one place. They can do comments, they can have discussions with people on these, they can complete them, they can put narrative on progress and completion status and those types of things all on here. And the idea is that they have one place to go to do this. And with our free component called Outlook Publisher, they could actually do this participation right within Outlook and have it flow back to EPM Live as if they had done it right within the solution itself. The key is it's simplifying for the user base and for your resources the need which often exists for them to go to multiple tools, multiple solutions, multiple databases to really get the full picture and participate in everything that they're involved in. The other aspect of this is regardless of what type of work it is, whether it's agile, waterfall, or more unplanned operational type of work, we get the ability to do resource capacity planning. Our resource management can be done from the top down as well from the bottom up. So for example, on any portfolio item, whether it's operational or an application or a traditional project, we can forecast resource demand for all portfolio items, whether it be in FTEs or hours, whatever it might be, and then actually put named individuals to fulfill that capacity or that demand that are required to actually execute on the work that's being defined in here. So the key here is that you can get a total picture of all resource loading and all resource demand as a dimension of this total work management that's going on. Also, if you're interested in tracking the cost perspectives of these, the ability to do detailed budgets and track actuals against any portfolio item or project or work element is inherent in EPM Live. We add the ability to do these detailed line item budgets and actual cost tracking to the SharePoint environment. And then really powerful is that the ability to do scenarios or what-if modeling. The ability to take projects or potential projects or different work items or applications or any type of work and be able to quantify and roll up and say, if we do all of this stuff, is going to put us over or under budget on our headcount, our resources, or our dollars for our budgets. And the idea is that we can select and deselect projects by priorities. We can maybe stage projects different by moving the projects out in time to delay maybe the incurrence of the cost and see if that's something that might fit within our budgets. And the idea is we can save scenarios and review them to find out what's the optimal mix or the optimal approach for us to take. And then from a portfolio management perspective, at a minimum, just centralized project visibility to be able to see things like in this graphic where you have KPIs or graphical indicators that tell us how we're doing on all the different dimensions of the project, whether they be schedules or resource utilization or budgets and those types of things. And you can really extend that beyond so that where you really want to adopt a full portfolio management process where you're doing consistent valuation and quantification and scoring of projects and other work and really be able to prioritize and make sure that we're working on the right things, those are the types of things that are in here that really accentuate and make sure that when we do all work in here, that we're working on the right things and not just executing on them well, but doing the right things in the first place. And then as I mentioned earlier on, the reporting, there's so many rich ways that SharePoint out of the box actually lets you surface data. But with things like our charting web parts and other components that we add to the mix, our pre-built canned reports, the ability to pull data from our reporting database directly into Excel or Excel services and do live data feeds, and be able to do SSRS or SQL Server reporting services reports, or any other reporting tool that can access a SQL database that you have in-house can actually render the data that you want. So there's some very rich reporting that comes out of this, and it simplifies it because we all end up with all the relevant data that we want to manage for all of our work in one solution, in one repository. So let's talk about some work management usage scenarios. I mean, the key here is that we want to be able to define work. We want to have that intake process. We want to have projects, services, support type of work, or whatever work types we want to have the intake and the ability to define them properly for the nature of the type of work that it is. We then want to be able to assign and status that work. We want to look at priorities and due dates and see if we're on schedule and get input on progress back from people. We also want to look at the resource work assignments and look at, say, what is the implication of all the things we've given to Adam or all the things we've given to the software development or application development department. And then just review organizational capacity for work. Are the things we've tackled or the things we intend to tackle, do we have the wherewithal and the capacity to actually deliver on that? Or are we already at risk because we've already overburdened the organization? These are things that are important questions, and these and others can actually be tackled, but these are some of the basics. If you look at what EPM Live can do to accelerate and add value into SharePoint, you can really manage an entire work process or cycle, cyclical process through all of this. So the idea of collecting the work demand, be able to analyze what it is that this means and what we should be doing and select the right things. And then once we select the right things, let's do some more detailed planning and tracking and analyzing of that work as we go through its active life cycle while it's in flight, and monitor and adjust to those things on a recurring basis so that we can fix the things that are broken and deliver things on time and adjust to issues and changes that come to us, which are always inevitable. The idea is that this full work process is enabled and automated in SharePoint by EPM Live. I had mentioned earlier on about all these different solution applications so that, for example, different audiences within your organization can have different flavors or approaches to project portfolio or overall work management. We deliver this now through a very innovative approach called our app marketplace, where we have pre-built solutions that you can actually deploy for specific audiences on a very automated basis. We don't want to sell you individual modules or et cetera, but if your company becomes an EPM Live customer, you have access at no additional charge to all these different application variations within our solution. Our solution, when you select it, you can actually see the details of it. It'll run a check to make sure you have all the necessary components or the right edition of the project, of the product installed. And then it will actually do an automated install of the core implementation, making sure all the menus, all the capabilities, all the workflows, all the reports and lists that are associated with these types of things, dashboards, are all installed automatically, much like you would do installing a simple app on a phone. The idea here is that we want to make it easier for customers to address the specific needs of specific audiences and not have it to take a huge consulting effort to do each one of these things internally. Now, granted, you may want to do some configuration of the pre-built solution and modify some things to tailor it for you, but that's really incremental and doesn't mean you have to configure or build this from the ground up. So with that, let's show you a little bit of what we're talking about in action. Okay. Here I'm looking at a SharePoint 2010 environment. Just so you know, we're starting to sunset our 2007 version of the product, or SharePoint 2007. 2010 is what's out there predominantly right now, and we are just now releasing our 2013 version for SharePoint 2013. So the idea is that we're supporting all the range of SharePoint, and by the way, you are not required to have any specific tier of SharePoint to implement our stuff. You can use the free version of SharePoint Foundation, you can use Standard Server, or you can use Enterprise Server. The idea is that our things that we're going to show you here today all work in any tier of SharePoint. Here, for example, I'm looking at, depending on how you authenticate in, typically it's Active Directory. Steve Masters is in here. He's looking at being part of the project's community, and he has a home page that's specific to his role. So the user definition and access to the projects that he's either a member or an owner of, the menu items that are very project management specific for him, the My Work area that I talked about that has workflow tasks, task center items, which are tasks from a schedule, to-dos or issues or other things that may be appropriate for him. The idea is it all comes into one place, and as I've mentioned, this can all be rendered to him in Outlook. And then he can collaborate with people on comment streams on different tasks or projects he's going through in a very social media-like fashion. And he can actually view notifications if he has any, either through the application or through email notification to supplement this as well. So the key here is he can get all of his work in one place, and he can actually participate on a very collaborative way with his team as he goes on through. Some of the things in here, you can obviously manage different portfolios, have lists of projects and tasks, etc. But for example, if I went into, say, for example, the feature request database, I have a choice on what planners I would use. In this case, for example, this project was built with EPM Live's web-based planner. If I go to edit this plan in a waterfall type of fashion, this is included with our solution. It doesn't require that you buy any other additional scheduling tool in order to make this happen. So the key here is this waterfall planning tool will actually render in your browser and let you do all the things that you traditionally, or most people traditionally do within waterfall planning. So for example, you build a hierarchy. You can indent and outdent tasks into a work breakdown structure. You can have tasks and summary tasks and milestones. You can actually put your duration and your date estimates in here. You can put work estimates and assign different resources to your project plans. All the things that you would do in here, dependencies, all 4 major dependency types with or without lags. Those are things that are all available to you in here. So for example, if I wanted to look at the details of any particular task, I can see the data or metadata around a task. I can see the resources and the quantifications of how that resource workload is split, the dependencies that may exist in here and the different types of dependencies that are available, and all the notes and comments and other things I might want to do around this. And the beautiful thing is that we actually manage a central resource pool from a resource management perspective. But that resource pool for some organizations could get fairly large. So what you may want to do is, even though you have access to a central resource pool, is to be able to narrow the field, I should say. So for this particular project or this work effort, instead of me having to deal with 1,000 people in a list every time, why don't I just add the people that are particular to this project to the project and determine what level of permissions or access I want to give these people for this particular project, even though they may have overall permissions. So the key here is that when I actually go out and assign resources to a task, it's only going to present me with the resources that I put on the team and gets out the noise of all those other resources that may be in the pool. The key here is that you save your plans, you publish them, and it makes them available to other folks out in EPM Live. So the net result is, even though I use a waterfall-based planning tool, when I publish it out, the project manager would work with the plan. But if I come into the feature request database, well, let me go to the project center here. If I go to the feature request database, I can see anything that's associated with this project. They could be task center, which is a schedule, risks, issues, change requests, project documents. Anything that's associated with this project is available for me on demand. For example, if I go, say, show me the task center, it will give me access to the full hierarchical plan that I just looked at in the planning tool. And I can have different views that show me different columns of data and different perspectives, maybe just focusing down on the milestones, for example. The key is that it's available out here, and given the right permissions, I can update these items out here in EPM Live, out in SharePoint, to really do collaborative work management on these waterfall project tasks within here. Okay. The Xbox project, same kind of thing. If I look at the task center is not going to look any different than it did for the feature request database. I mean, I can expand this and look at a nice hierarchical plan that was built. Obviously, our grids add some hierarchical capability to these lists that SharePoint really doesn't support out of the box with its really flat list type of structure. But this particular project was built using Microsoft Project. This plan was actually used to create the Xbox DVD project, and all we did with our free project publisher for our users is to save and publish this out just like we did with the web-based planner, and then the schedule is now viewable with the right rights updatable, and then all these people you see assigned to these tasks, these work elements automatically show up in their My Work area that I showed you early on so that they can see what they've been assigned and provide feedback and updates. And the nice part about the person that owns the plan, and this is true in our online planner or in Microsoft Project, the project manager can actually have their team simultaneously update tasks in this Microsoft Project plan and then get visibility into what changes have come into them. So for example, I can look at a specific task, see who made the update. In this case, it's timesheet hours that are coming in, but it could just as easily be a % complete change or other things that you want them to update. And the idea is I can actually accept this update and have it update the actual item in Microsoft Project electronically without me having to rekey or retype that information back into Microsoft Project. So it really is a closed loop bi-directional integration with Project. Okay. From a more IT perspective, Steve may be involved in project management, but he might come in here and say, all right, I want to manage one of my projects in a more agile fashion. So this Surface tablet software may come up and say, when I go to Edit Plan, we'll actually launch the Agile Planner. Now, just because it's in the same portfolio, it doesn't have to mean that it's using the same methodology to do the work planning. So for example, here in this case, this Agile Planner is going to allow you to do more iterative-based planning. So for example, I can look at any existing backlog items down below here in a split screen. I can define iterations and size the time box. I can maybe put points capacities or effort capacity in here, and then really drag and drop specific items, user stories, features, defects, other things that may be needed. Here, the points capacity was set at 150 for this iteration. Looks like we have 70 points actually allocated here, meaning we have 80 available points. If I wanted to take this item, say add HDMI port, and drag that up to the first iteration, I can drag that up. It'll allow it to come in. It'll actually decrement from that and allow me to size it, assign it to someone, and actually put other comments or other iteration type of information around that. The key here is it's very iterative-based planning, managing backlogs, and all of this stuff could come in from a separate intake point that allows you to look at backlog items that come in that are demanded by your customers, your internal audiences, whatever they may be. So one of the key things you're looking at here is as you build a new project, you have a power of choice here. For example, I have this new proposed project that a plan has not been built for yet. If I say, let's edit a plan or build a plan for this, it's going to give me options. So here on one side, I have a section that doesn't do any Agile, so it's only offering me the choice to use Microsoft Project or the web-based project planner. On the IT side, where I'm doing some software development and I come on in, I might come in and look at a new project, and it might offer me more choices, depending on how we configure it. So I might come in and say, edit a plan, and now it's going to say, do you want to use Microsoft Project, the Agile Planner, or the Project Planner? So you can be as broad or as narrow as you'd like with this solution. Other dimensions on this as we do work, we talked about resource components or the dimension of work. We can assign specific resources to specific tasks or work elements, or very early on for projects and other types of larger efforts, we can do what we call resource capacity planning. So for the strategic merger evaluation, if I wanted to size this, I could come on in and say, all right, this is the duration of the project. Maybe initially on, I might want to plan this from a generic resource or role perspective. And I might just say, you know, I'm going to need a project manager. Let me drag a project manager generically up there. And I'm going to need a developer. Let's keep it simple for the purposes of today. Okay? As I go on through, I can plan this in either hours, full-time equivalents, or percentages of allocation. Let me do a simple FTE planning. So let's say for the project manager, I'm going to need, say, a half an FTE for the entire duration of the project, or I can specify something else. And very quickly, I've got a half an FTE as a requirement for a project manager across this. Maybe the developer effort on this might be different. Maybe it'd be more like a full-time equivalent effort, and I'll put that across as well. Now, you could actually go into any one of these time phased areas or months and change the quantity, ramp it up, ramp it down, whatever it might be. But the drag and drop and the ease of getting this up here generically is fairly quick. This might be sufficient to justify the project and just define what's needed. But at some point, you're going to figure out if this project gets approved, who's going to have to do this. If I select this project manager requirement and I say, find me some matches, it'll bring up some project managers and show me the remaining availability. It looks like my friend Eli is a good candidate and has the availability. So let me just drag Eli up and do a one-to-one replacement. I'm going to replace that generic project manager with Eli, and now Eli's availability has been decremented by that half an FTE across this time period. The developer ranks, I might want to do something different. I might not want to fulfill this requirement with just one person. So let me find some matches for that developer. And it looks like David's a good match, so let me drag him up. But instead of doing a one-to-one replacement, I'm going to do what's called a fulfillment. And it's going to track the overall requirement and say that David's going to fill that full FTE at this point in time. But my intention is really to take Eric and have him join David on this. And I want to then split that work. So it's smart enough to know that what I'm trying to do, it gives me some choices. And here it now is dividing up the work between them 50-50. Now I can change the split here if I want individually, but the idea now is I have a full FTE requirement being fulfilled by 2 people, and they've automatically been added to this project team like we talked about, that team building or editing that project team from the resource pool. The key here is you can do this for any item, any work effort, any initiative, and build these capacity plans. And then later on, be able to come in here and look at the aggregate of all that. If I want to look at all the projects and say, what is the total of all these capacity plans? What does that mean to me? And I can come in and look at the aggregate effort of all of this right within SharePoint. So as I can see, for the projects that are selected, it looks like I have specific resources that are either over or under allocated at certain points in time. And I can look at these totals anytime I want, and I can also look at the various ways of looking at totals, by role, by the individual resource, looking at actuals versus the planned capacity and other things. So I have a lot of flexibility on how I want to look at that, and we can go into that at another time. The same thing with costs. If I want to plan detailed cost plans at a line item basis for a particular project, I can just select the project and I can build a budget for a particular project based on line items. And these would be your line items. These aren't predefined by us. These are ones that you can select in the way that you budget for your company or your organization. And the idea is that a total budget is based upon line item detail on a time phase basis. We can even track actuals against those categories, as well as maybe even forecast benefits, whether they be revenue or cost savings, et cetera, and even actual benefits to see if we realize the benefits that we actually cited when we justified the project. And we can do what-if scenarios. The key here is, in a simple case, we can do selections and time phasing of projects. In this case, as we're trying to modify and decide on work and the staging of work, if I look down at what that means, in this case I'm looking at a total of costs, if I overlay our actual budget that we've defined, you can actually look and see where you're over or under budget at any given point in time. So for example, you might take a lower priority project like the Active Directory project and say, what if I just didn't do that? And how would that impact things? Does that help? Well, it helps a little bit, but it doesn't get the total job done. Maybe what I need to do is take the Xbox project and delay it out a quarter. And if I can do that, maybe that takes care of it or pushes the issue out to a future time so I can handle the deals that are handled. It looks like I've got a pretty good handle on the stuff here in the remaining of 2012. This is old demo data, but I think you get the idea. and we can save versions of these scenarios to look at different approaches and compare them to see which might be the best bet for our organization. The key here is that for portfolio visibility, we can look at our work in a variety of ways. I can look at maybe a more of an executive summary that has a bigger selection of projects, maybe categorized in different ways with different information. I can look at dashboard type of views that combine both charting with more objective listed type of data like we just saw. So the idea is that we can have selectability here and graphical charting that actually is supported by more detailed data in those types of dashboards. And the key is, because it's all coming out of a common solution, it's a natural outgrowth and natural input. I had mentioned early on the concept of communities. From Steve Masters' perspective, he is, in this case, in the IT community, part of a number of different communities. We were focused on his project management area before. But for example, in the different communities, he has access to the IT executive community, the applications community, the IT assets community, as well as the service management community. When we talk about all work, that unstructured service management work might be a very key component to that total workload and total work approach. So if I go into service management, for example, Steve is here, and he can see his own open requests, things that he's actually made from a service request perspective. And in a very ITIL-like fashion, we have the ability to either request things, categorize them, or escalate them as needed. So for example, if I go into the actual total bin of service requests that are in here, I might come in and see the service requests that are there, and I can have, once again, a lot of different views that filter, group, or show different data elements. But at any particular point in time, I can look at a particular item. I can either assign it to someone, I can pick it up myself, and I can work on it. And I can look at anything that's associated with it if I have service tasks or problems that are associated with that. The key is, though, in a very ITIL-like fashion, a service request might come in, and we might want to escalate it to a problem as opposed to just a service request. A workflow would automatically move it from a service request into a problem area. So if I'm in problems, for example, I might have a list of things that were escalated or created as problems. But then as I go in and classify and categorize those, you're going to see that it has a lot of different information associated with it. So we have related service requests, maybe an asset it's associated with, what application it's associated with, who it's assigned to, sizing, comments, resolution notes, etc. The key here is that we have the ability then to convert or escalate this to, say, an IT change in that process and have it automatically updated and move this into a more escalated mode, into a more escalated type of item. And we do the same thing from changes to projects. So if something becomes a change and it escalates, we can actually just morph it into a full-blown project and put it into the rigor of a full-blown IT project if it escalates to that point in time. The key here is, as I'm assigning these things to people, they going into a My Work area just like anything else, so that, for example, as Steve goes in and sees the things that are assigned to him or his total home page on his My Work area, he actually can have his service requests and his problems and his changes into the mix just like any other work item. For example, if we went to his own home page in general, his My Work area would actually show you the diversity of type of work that's assigned to him. He's got problems and service requests and risks and backlog items from an Agile effort. He's got tasks from a waterfall project, etc. The key is he has one place to go to get all that. If I go to the applications community, this is where some maybe more application management and development may be done. Here, he may be looking at applications that he owns and looking at some of the prioritization and doing some bubble charting and flexible ways and metrics that he might want to look at that, to look at priorities and how things rank against one another. The key here is that if I go into the overall applications list, I can manage my entire inventory of applications in here and then all the work that's associated with that. For example, if I went to, let's just say, the ledger tracking system, I can look at anything that's associated with that ledger tracking system. I can go to EPM Live. I think there's some associations in here. And if I wanted to look at how many projects, for example, are associated with that EPM Live application, I can very easily call up and see what's going on. There's 2 active projects now that are associated with the EPM Live project. If I want to see any service requests that are associated with that particular application, even though it's in a general service request bit, I can see there's 1 active service request that's here associated with that. That's true with risks and changes and documents, etc. The idea, it's all interrelated so that as you're managing total work, you can manage an application portfolio, but your projects that you're working on can be associated or affiliated with different applications or different portfolios, etc., etc. We do provide a rich set of reporting capabilities. We provide a number of different out-of-the-box reports for organizations. So, for example, reports on changes and issues and portfolios. We provide a bunch out of the box, but you can add to this with your own reports and add those to the library, modify the ones that are here. We just give you a really good jumping off point to look at a lot of different dimensions on these types of things. We also leveraged from our reporting database SQL reporting services. So, for example, very quick reports that you might want to run, say, I don't know, a project status summary. If I want to use a quick project status report, I can actually look at it in the viewer if I like and run that information here very quickly. And then I can look at the key performance indicators, schedule status, cost status, look at overdue tasks, active issues, completed milestones. And I can either view them here or I can have this pushed out in other formats to other people in the organization, even maybe on a predefined distribution list on a more automated and scheduled basis. The key here is that the charting, the reporting, is all coming dynamically with real-time information and current information from our database. The other nice thing about having all work in one application is you can create new items from wherever you are in the solution. I don't have to be in a particular project location or in a particular record. I can just say, for example, create a new item, and it will allow me to create an issue, a change, a project, a product, a risk, to do, whatever it might be. And all I have to do is associate it with the project or the application or whatever it might be. So for this type of thing, this issue, it would allow me to name it and associate it with any given project, or maybe even do a type ahead on Xbox, for example, and find that. And just associate it with that and capture all the things around this very simply from wherever I'm at in the solution. Probably the last thing I'd like to cover in this is that whole concept of applications. For example, we talked about the communities, and in this case we talked about communities for service management, assets, and projects. We can create and add new communities if we have administrative rights in here. You don't want everybody to be able to create communities, but at any given point in time you can add an app. So if I go to add an app, it's going to take you to our app store or our app marketplace. And there's the core applications, which are the foundation of what we do. And then there's all these bundled or individual apps that you can add. You can add new product development as a bundled app with all kinds of features and reports and data in it. Professional services automation. Or maybe a simple thing where you might say, I just want to add, I don't know, I just want to add risks as a single list item to add it to a community. So I can have very simple individual applications or more bundled, full-featured types of applications. For example, if I went to look at the new product development app and I wanted to go learn more about that, it'll tell me about what it does. It'll tell me and describe the features that are included, things like product roadmaps and product lines and product dashboards and a product roadmap planner, and then screenshots that you can actually expand on this to look at that. It'll tell me what requirements or what version of EPM Live you need to have in order to make this work, and the pricing. All these native apps are free. And if I say get it now, it will ask me what community do I want to install it in, and it will do all the checking and installing for you without you having to do any intervention at all. So really don't have time to go through the whole process today, but be aware that all of these native applications and permutations I talked about earlier on are available to all of our customers, whether they're online or on their own on-premise SharePoint farm at no additional charge to what they're already paying for EPM Live. So just some good overview. Hopefully we showed you the fact that we can manage a lot of different work items and work types a lot of different bundled applications and manage things from projects to agile development efforts to service requests and unplanned work, but have them all really get pulled together in a very seamless fashion. So let's wrap this up with a benefit summary. So overall benefits of EPM Live in extending SharePoint, we are the most complete SharePoint application for total work management. We can do project, portfolio, resource management, and different methodologies very easily and have pre-built applications but are also easily configurable, so you can add your own fields, your own metadata, or maybe the pull-down list have your own life cycle categories and other things like that that are unique to your organization. And we are going to manage all types of work in one system. We have the potential to do that, both from defining on the intake, from planning, prioritizing, and tracking the work from womb to tomb. Okay? Also, the fact that it's built in SharePoint. One is whether you're online with us or you're installing it into your own SharePoint farm, you're leveraging what you already own. So the idea is you're saving money in a number of different ways because you're actually, this is more so if you're on-premise, just extending the capabilities of what you've already deployed and invested in. So we're incrementally adding to that. So you're saving money over buying a standalone application, having standalone architecture, and buying a potentially expensive standalone solution when you can just incorporate this into your existing use of SharePoint. Also, you get to use what your team already knows. This reduces adoption risk, meaning they're familiar with navigation, they know SharePoint, they're comfortable with it, so it's an incremental learning curve as opposed to learning a whole new technology and a whole new application. Also, you can increase the value from your current investment in SharePoint, meaning you can maximize your benefits. If you're just using a fraction and scratching the surface of SharePoint's potential, by being able to do all of this work and be able to funnel all this stuff in here and aggregate it into one solution, you could potentially increase very dramatically the benefit and the utilization you're getting from SharePoint. Another key point from a total cost of ownership perspective is that all this is based upon SharePoint and SQL Server, meaning it's a common IT platform, meaning that the skills are out there. You may already have the skills internally if you already have a SharePoint farm. So to maintain it, to extend it, to write reports for it, all those types of things are skills you already have. You're not going to be dependent on a third-party vendor for everything that you're going to need to maintain and feed this application over time. And as I said earlier on, if you have different solutions and different applications for different work types, you potentially have the opportunity to retire multiple solutions that can be handled in one, meaning the annual cost and maintenance and upkeep of those things could be reduced and just gotten rid of. And just simplify the life and the user experience from your users and your resources by having them only go to one place to look for their work. So just some things to consider. In a wrap, you can try us out if you go to epmlive.com, go to our website, and you can request a free trial. We can get you access to a demo data site like you saw today with data in it so you can visualize and see things. And we can walk you through a trial or evaluation process and support you through that. So I would encourage you to go explore that if you saw some things that were interesting to you today. If you also want to contact us, you can email us at info@epmlive.com. You can call us directly at 855-EPM-LIVE, excuse me. And if you guys want to contact me directly and have any questions for me specifically, you can reach me at jpatterson@epmlive.com. So I'd like to thank you for your time and participation today. If you have folks or colleagues that weren't able to make it today, never fear. We'll actually distribute a recorded version of this and the slides so you can take a look at all that. And let us know how EPM Live can help you fulfill and really accelerate the value in SharePoint by really adding total work management to the component. Thank you and have a great day.